I think this is a healthy discussion, and there are a lot of sort of details we probably need to work through. I know under GOMESA there is a small portion of funding for LWCF that is mandatory, and I think that is a direction we should be moving in. If you look back at the $900 million that's deposited into that fund every year and effectively rated, in my view, to support the general fund, the unappropriated balance, if my information is correct, which is a little different than what you cited, Ms. Hayes, is actually $18.779 billion, almost $19 billion. And if you look then at the reclamation fund, which in theory I can understand how someone would think that that's another 40% going to interior states, but it's not being appropriated. There's $12 billion as of what we expect for FY13 at the end of FY13 of unappropriated funds from the reclamation fund as well. And I would simply make the point that in addition to the stateside portion of LWCF, which is very critical, and I can't tell you how many soccer fields and baseball diamonds and other things have been funded across the nation with that effort, the federal side is equally important. And in New Mexico, where we have 68,000 jobs tied to outdoor recreation, where hunting and fishing and camping and all of those activities drive an enormous portion of our economy, that program has been critical to securing properties such as the Valles Caldera National Preserve. In addition, in the 2014 budget, it calls for funding for the Prices Dairy addition to the new Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge in the Rio Grande Valley just south of Albuquerque, as well as the Miranda Canyon addition to the Carson National Forest, which protects a local drinking water resource and a critical watershed that feeds the Rio Grande as well. So can you say a little bit about what the administration's position is in terms of how much is needed to fund those kinds of federal non-stateside projects in 2014?
Our 2014 budget included a proposal of $600 million in total for Land and Water Conservation Fund, with a balance of federal acquisition to do some of the acquisitions you were talking about, like Price's Dairy, and continue those acquisitions of important in-holdings for parks and refuges, and as well some of the BLM areas. And also state grants to allow states to develop recreational opportunities. I know Secretary Jewell and Secretary Salazar have both been up here to talk with all of you about the importance of America's great outdoors and investments to support the travel and tourism and the economic returns and jobs. Also in the Land and Water Conservation Fund request is funding for the Forest Service for land acquisition, forest legacy, and then we have also endangered species grants in that request. Thank
you, Ms. Hayes. Mm-hmm. I want to take a moment and just touch on something that my colleague from Colorado brought up as well. The bill before us today does include a formula to share revenues from renewable energy generated on federal lands from renewables. What I might recommend is something that we can continue a conversation about is directing a portion of those onshore renewable energy revenues to conservation projects like wildlife habitat restoration and water resource protection. And I'm curious as to whether the administration has a position on that kind of an approach to renewables.
I can't answer that. I don't know. We'll find that out for the record.
That
sure,
for the record?
Certainly will. And you were correct. I was trying to come up with Land and Water Conservation Fund balances off the top of my head, which is never a good idea. The unappropriated balance right now is over $18 billion. You're right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes.